Hello, this is the Alchemy Workshop. I did a video a while back showing how to take an older Cricut cutter and hack it so you don't have to use their cartridges. You hook it up to your computer and I can load in any graphic I want on the software and it'll cut it. And since then I use that thing all the time. Mostly I'm cutting vinyl stencils. I use it as like a sticker to resist when I acid etch. So I'll do that on copper, steel, different metals, different things. That video got a lot of views, still gets a lot of views, a lot of comments. And I think a few people asked about sharpening the blades, which I mentioned in that video, but I didn't get to. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that show how to sharpen a Cricut blade. And what they do is they pull out the blade and they stab it into foil a bunch of times, a ball of aluminum foil. That is not sharpening your blade. It's dulling your blade. The only thing that's doing that might make it perceive like the blade got sharper is it's cleaning it. If there's anything sticky on the blade, it's not going to cut so good. I've had it where it cut through parts of masking tape and that got stuck on the blade and it started tearing out. But the blade was ruined, but it's just, you have to clean it. I wouldn't clean it with tin foil. You can use acetone, you can use rubbing alcohol. Stabbing it in foil is not going to sharpen a blade. I don't care what people say. I am a knife maker. I can get knives very, very sharp. And what I'm going to show you here, it's very, very easy. You don't need any special tools or any special skills. Sharpening a knife with a stone, of course, that's not something you're just going to learn from a video and be able to do. You're more likely to actually ruin the blade than sharpen it. But this is fail-proof. It's safe. It's not going to repair a damaged blade. If the blade is damaged, just buy another one. It's not worth it. What I recommend with this is if your blade starts to get dull, or seems like it is, or you've used it a few times, it does not hurt to do this, and it's going to maintain the edge a lot longer. So all you're going to need is your blade, and I'll show you how to remove it in a minute from the cartridge. Piece of leather. Any piece of leather will do. I have a leather strop. It's just some veg tan, normal leather. Old belt, any leather will do. You can go on Amazon or Temu and buy a leather strop, and it'll come with the compound and everything you need, and they're dirt cheap, and you can use it on many things. Kitchen knives, whatever. And the same rule applies. If the knife isn't damaged, it's kind of losing its edge. This will sharpen it up. Now, the only problem with this is I'm going to show you how to remove it from the cartridge. There's this little button at the top. When you push it, the blade starts pointing out from the bottom. It's held in by a magnet. You just grab that, pull it right out. Same way to put it back in. Now, the only problem with this is this thing's really tiny and it's hard to grip and it's round. And I have no way to control it or get the right angle with my fingers. So that's the biggest challenge. The easiest solution I found is just take a pen, old pen, take it apart, take the plastic thing that holds the ink, and it'll fit normally right in there. If it doesn't fit, you might have to wrap some masking tape around it, find another pen. That fits in there perfect. Now I've got a nice handle. And you see this, I don't know the name of this actual blade. It's angled chisel, and I use this all the time for cutting vinyl. And it still cuts, but this is going to make it cut better. And it hasn't gotten so dull that it's damaged. If it's cutting really bad, it's going to be very hard to see. You're going to want to look if there's any obvious damage to the blade. You might need a magnifying glass. And we're going to use a piece of leather, and we're going to strop it. So I'll show you how to strop the blade. Before I do that, let me explain to you what's happening that makes it dull. This is like the side view of a blade. So there's the edge right here. When you're sharpening it, what happens, or after it gets dull, or starts to get dull, you'll get they're micro, it's a burr, and it's microscopic. You're not going to see it with the bare eye, naked eye. You need a microscope. But these burrs start forming over the tip and going over one way or the other way. So what we're doing with the strop is knocking these burrs off, and they're going to go back this way, but they're going to keep getting smaller each time we go to each side until those burrs are like really small and the edge is really polished. And then that makes it razor sharp. So to strop, you want to have the leather. I usually use the rough side, the flesh side, if you want to call it that. And make a handle for the blade. And what's going to really help is use some kind of like polishing compound. And I'm going to rub just a little bit on the leather. It helps if you heat up the leather a little bit. You can use a blow dryer or a heat gun. That'll make the compound just kind of like melt on there easier. The compound just makes the process go a lot faster. It's working almost like a really fine liquid sandpaper. When you order those stropping kits, they usually come with a thing of compound. I've heard of people using toothpaste, spraying it out and letting it dry on paper. That might work. I would just grab a piece of leather and some actual compound. I want to hold it on the side of the bevel, and I want to drag it. I want to make sure that bevel's as flat as possible with the leather, and I'm going to just drag it across. You want to kind of drag fast. It's the friction doing the work, and even. And you're trying not to cut into the leather. You're just dragging it across. It doesn't take much pressure. That fell out of my thing. And I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, on both bevels. So I'll do it a few times this way, and then a few times I'll flip it around and do it the other side. And what I normally do with a knife is I'll do maybe like 10 times on one side, 10 times on the other, and then I keep flipping. And I'll do 5 on a side, 5 on a side, then 3 on a side, 3 on a side, and then finally 1 time on each side a few times. And that's just, it's knocking off those micro burrs basically at the blade that's preventing it from cutting as well. And if you really want to go for a sharp edge, then you can flip the leather over and use the smoother side. Same thing, I'll put a bit of compound on. And it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. Just kind of it's more the speed. Like if you kind of drag it across faster, it's that friction that's helping work. So that's done. There's no way you're going to damage your blade like this. There is one way. I'm going to show you how to avoid that in a minute. I can guarantee that is already a lot sharper than it was. I'm going to use a bigger size. This is a leather carving knife, swivel knife. So you see that bevel. And I'm just going to show you an example on this one just to show you what to avoid. Because some people try to strop things and they're like, it's duller than it started. So what they're doing wrong is usually it's either not a good angle, and it doesn't have to be a perfect angle. Leather has some give. But I want to be flat. I want it to be rubbing on the very edge, knocking that burr off. But if I have the angle too high, I'm actually running across the cutting edge. And that, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to dull my knife. But if I have it too high and I'm running across the cutting edge, then I'm polishing the cutting edge. And of course, it's going to get duller from that. That's all there is to it. It's very simple. It takes a couple minutes. And I guarantee you, if you do this, I don't say every time you use the machine, but just do it every once in a while, every kind of regular if you're using it a lot. It doesn't take long, and you're going to maintain a sharp blade. The blade's going to last you a lot longer. Like I said, if the blade's totally damaged, it's usually carbide metal, so I wouldn't bother. Even though I have a lot of tools for doing it, it's so small, it's like not even worth it to try to sharpen it. If it's that bad, I would just replace it. These things are not super cheap, though I have seen aftermarket brands, and even on like Temu, they sold them really cheap. They're probably not as good of quality, but if they're a lot cheaper, then who knows? And if you strop them, they probably last a lot longer. If anyone's had experience with those the other off brands like from Temu and stuff like that, let me know what you think of them. I'm curious. I'll probably order some in the future, but really this thing's lasted me quite a long time. I just do that every once in a while, and it stays sharp. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe. Till next time.